good evening, good day, depending on where you're catching up with us today. Today is a great evening. It's a chilled back day. It's been a busy week for me, and obviously, I love coming to you guys on a Saturday to do like one of those weekly catch ups. But tomorrow is again another Saturday of commitment, so I'll not be able to do streaming tomorrow. Hence, the reason why I still want to catch up with the streams and the reason why I am here today. So, if you're new here, I'd like to begin by introducing myself. My name is Claire. I have the privilege and the opportunity to be the founder of this channel. I am a fitness enthusiast. I love anything related to health and fitness. It gives me so much privilege and so much opportunities to be able to share with you guys. I want to really appreciate those who continue to like, to share, to subscribe to this channel. We are growing, but it's all because of you guys being able to watch, you guys being able to support what you're doing. And so I really want to start by greatly appreciating that. And before we delve into what I want to look at today, I just want you to take a little bit of a minute and just like kind of allow yourself to feel yourself, do a little bit of stretches, just a bit of like loosening of your muscles, because we'll do a bit of talking and chatting and catching up. I can hear my muscles basically going like, right? So just kind of let's just loosen up. Let's just let that go. The tension of the day, the things that have kept us. Some of us, we work so hard. We allow ourselves to kind of just sit in the same position. Just do some stretches, of course, so that in the end you're allowing yourself just to let go of tension. I like us as well, just do a little bit of like breathing in, hold, and out. Breathe in. And out. Breathe in. And out. Just let that tension go. If you need to stretch a little bit further, just allow it to be. So allow this moment just to be a time of you letting go of everything and then relaxing for today's chat. About 2 or 3 days ago, I was going for a run. Been here for a minute or so. You know that I'm a great fan and a great lover of running. So I really enjoy doing my runs, and I really enjoy finding myself I want to check some of the things that I'm doing today so that I ensure that I can be talking to you guys. And so I love spending time running. I love just being able to do the things that I want to do. I love just being able to, like, again, as I said, running, because obviously it does give me that opportunity to be able to exercise free of charge without paying for it, etc. It's about 2 days ago, 3 days ago, so to say, I was basically going for a run. I woke up in the morning. I didn't even think about it. I just said, you know what, it's the day. I need to go out for a run. And I was running and running and running. And then I got to a place. I heard something in my heart. I was like kind of an inner voice asking me, Claire, are you running because you really love yourself, that you want to exercise and get yourself into the regime of being fit? Or are you running just because you want to show off your running, or because you want to catch up with a trend or things like that? And I thought about it as like, am I running out of love, out of loving myself enough to really want to exercise, to really be able to look after myself, or am I just doing it for the sake of it? And I thought, good question. Sometimes when we do some things, you actually lose weight, do it from the position. I've said this before. I could easily do things when I don't know the why, so I better do it. Or my sister's doing it, so I better do it. Or so and so is doing it, so I better do it. And then you get to a point whereby you're not really doing it out of loving yourself. And that's why I just felt in my heart. You might say it's maybe a voice, it might be, I feel like for me it was the Holy Spirit just saying, Claire, do everything that you do out of love? Are you doing this as a show off? I can easily do my exercises to show off and come to YouTube and say, ha, I'm really good at exercising. But I just felt like the thing that I thought to myself was, do I love myself enough to be able to reach out to my health goals, loving myself into being healthy? And that will be the title of today's live stream, loving myself to good health. And I can see some of you online. Good to see you. Good that you're watching with us. And I just wanted to say, as I begin this, like, do you love yourself when you do the things that you do? When you go to exercise, when you set up a regime, whatever you do, wherever you're doing, are you doing whatever you're doing out of loving yourself? Do you love yourself enough to the point that you can actually decide and say, I'm going to sacrifice 30 pounds or 33,000 shillings a month to be able to go for exercise, to go to the gym, to hire a personal trainer, or to invest in somebody that will give me the knowledge? And nowadays, I usually say that you don't need to go to the personal trainers, or you don't need even to pay for that, because at the end of the day, you can easily find information that you need to live a healthy, thriving lifestyle through things like free YouTube videos that people are willing to share the information, compared to a couple of years ago where it was much more difficult. The information was there. For example, YouTube was there, but for some of us, I mean, a couple of years ago, I couldn't be able to be on YouTube for whatever reason. Maybe I didn't have the connectivity, maybe I didn't have the internet connection, etc. But if at all today everything else is like stripped away, you don't have anything else that you can do, will you still be able to love yourself enough to be able to say, well, I love myself enough to be able to wake up? When I go to run, I will run because I'm doing it out of the love that I have for myself. When I do anything, it will be out of the love that I have for myself. There are so many spectrums of different disorders that can actually result. And I don't want to talk about eating disorders because that's something that is outside my remit as a nutritionist. It's something that I will never be able to talk about it like in details. But sometimes could it be maybe we have unhealthy relationships with even things like food just because we don't love ourselves. And sometimes it just goes back to, who is your reference, your frame of reference? Who are you referencing to whenever you want to live a healthy lifestyle? What is it that I usually say? Who is that person that is talking to you, speaking to you, or becoming that voice to you that you can say, I'm looking to that person to influence me in this or the other way? And the best thing I usually say is try to understand what works best for you, because what works best for you might not necessarily work best for another person. And then you'll get to a point where you become so frustrated, you become like, you start to compare yourself with other people, you start to feel unworthy, and then you'll start to go, maybe you're exercising or maybe you're eating wherever that you're eating, but you're not doing it out of loving yourself into that good health. I remember a couple of years ago when my husband was a student, and I visited where he was studying, and he was telling me of a story of a colleague that used to always walk around with a little scale, literally, like whenever there's some food that they need to eat, they will get the scale out and weigh the food and say, I've got this amount of food in there. And I thought, that's really unhealthy relationship with food, isn't it? If you are allowing yourself to be controlled in such a way that you don't even want to really, you become really very much like so focused on the nutrition, like the calories, and you're like, oh my God, I don't know. It can become an obsession. And when it becomes an obsession, it can get to a point where easily you spiral out of it. You can get to a point whereby if you are frustrated, the first emotion that you reach out to is food. That's where sometimes some people even develop things like, as I said, these very, very hostile relationships, so to say, very unhealthy relationships, where at the end of the day, you're constantly like, when I'm angry, I reach out for food. When I'm sad, I reach out for food. When I'm happy, I reach out for food. When I'm this, I reach out for food. Do you make food your comforter? Is it like something that you got to a point where you are comfortable with, like literally like a pacifier, not even comfortable, but a pacifier, that you get to a point where you don't really necessarily like prioritize where you feel like, okay, I'm gonna eat, gorge myself, and then you reach a place you're like, goodness me, and I'll feel guilty, I'm feeling shameful, and things like that. And that can be very unhealthy. And it all starts from the place of love. If you love yourself so much, and so, like, I don't mean that you love yourself until you become like self-centered, but if you're comfortable and settled in who I am, you're comfortable and settled in understanding when I'm waking up to go and run, I'm waking up to go and run because I want to feel good. And as my dear friend Abby usually says, like, just being able to affirm some of these things. Some of us are wounded, are hurting from our past, and our past constantly reminds you, or maybe for some of us, we've been physically abused, we've been emotionally abused, we've gone through so many different things that it gets to a point that our bodies don't even mean anything to us. I spoke to a friend of mine, it's a very sad thing, and they were telling me like they had a very rough upbringing, that it got to a point that they got to say, they're like, oh well, you can do whatever you want to do to me, that's not my body, and my soul is out, there's the body, do whatever you want to do with it. And stuff does happen sometimes, which can be really painful, sometimes which can be really difficult to deal with. And it gets back into things like identity issues. When you're struggling with identifying with who you are and whose you are, I usually say that it gets to a point that this identity crisis can actually as well result and turn into things that you don't feel like, I belong, I can love myself enough to be able to do anything that will make me healthy. And it gets to a point whereby you're constantly allowing yourself to look at yourself down, look down to yourself, and you'll do things out of strife, you'll do things out of like kind of an a not good place. And so I just thought to myself, and I said, when I had that voice saying to me, are you running because you really love yourself, or are you running just because for the sake of it? And I actually thought about it and said, I don't think it's love that motivated me to leave my house today. I just left my house because it's become maybe a routine, or I left my house because I thought it just might be a good thing to log on another mile. But if I love myself enough, when my alarm goes, I'll be up, I'll be happy, I'll be enjoying, I'll be rejoicing, and that will actually help me to also be able to effectively work through things like if I have goals. You set goals out of love. You'll set goals because you're like, girl, I love you so much to want the best for you. And so I'm going to set goals that are going to help us. Me and you, Claire, we are going to achieve this together. And when you get to a point where you have not been able to fulfill your goals, you don't feel like beating yourself too hard because you love yourself, because you're doing it from a place and position of love. You're doing it from a place of position of like, I am settled in who I am. And so if I make a mistake today, or if I miss an exercise, or if I don't eat healthily as I had desired to do it, I don't go beating myself up for that. I don't feel like I'm shaming myself. I don't feel like I have this compulsive behavior or relationship, because at the end of the day, I'm motivated by this person, right? By this body that I really love, because our bodies, never forget that they are the temples of the Holy Spirit. He lives within us. And so that should give you that motivation to say, anytime I'm going for a run, I'm doing it because, girl, I love you. I love you. Me and you, we are good teams, right? We get together, we do stuff together. And so when I'm going, whether I'm going to eat, that will be like, let's get something healthy, girl, because I love you, Claire. Because when I'm making investments, the way you look after yourself, the way you are able, are you able to invest in yourself? Are you able to do something for you that will move you a step into a better you, that will move you into a healthy you, that will move you into being better person every single step? Every single day, I usually say, it's not just for once. Don't do things that will make you kind of, after 1 or 2 days, you're feeling like, goodness me, I can't do this anymore. Be like that kind of a person that you're like, I'm gonna love myself. I will show up for myself every single day. I will show up for me when I go for a run or go do anything I'll do. I will do it for myself. I will give it 101% because I love myself. I want to get to the point that you can't love other people. Let's be real. If you don't love yourself, it starts from the place of loving me and then being able to spread that around. And that goes again on how you relate to things like food, on how you exercise, how you are able to look after yourself. There are some people that you can see them and you just know, like, oh, well, you don't judge, but you can be like, that person really, I'm not saying be full of yourself. No, I recently posted that a short that was saying, loving yourself doesn't necessarily mean all of about me, but it just means me too. That you get a point, you're like, me too, I can be able to do this. Me too, I'm confident enough in understanding who I am, confident enough in my identity as a child of God, that I can be able to exercise, or I can be able to go and have a meal. And if again, as I said, if you get it wrong, where condemnation comes in, some of us start feeling like, oh gosh, I can't even be able to manage a day off without I can just get a day done, or I can, it gets to a point that you constantly the biggest critic of yourself when you make mistakes. Are you easy to forgive yourself? Are you easy to say, Claire, you've done it, you made a mistake? But okay, that's fine. We're not excusing it, but you're like, okay, I'm sorry, and then you move on. If you miss a day of exercise, or you decided you want to eat healthily, and then you go to the office, and then a friend of yours turns up and says, well, like it happened to me today. I go to the office, I'm like, I'm gonna have my meal at 3 p.m. so that I can have enough time to allow everything to settle in. And then a colleague comes and says, what, are we gonna go out for a coffee? I'm like, oh well, okay, let's go for a coffee. A coffee ended up into a slice of a cake, and I haven't been this afternoon to do anything, so I'm gonna have that slice of cake in my body for the night, and then tomorrow we'll just look again and start again, start afresh, right? As long as we have life, as long as we are able to see tomorrow, let's give ourselves another chance. You've got only one life to live. You are the greatest champion of yourself. You are the greatest, and you can be the only greatest encourager of yourself, and you can be the only greatest friend of yourself. And so don't be an enemy of yourself. Don't go onto a health journey from a place of being mean to yourself, from a place of being like an enemy that you really want to stay away from. That's something you really want to be able to avoid, so that eventually, as you get to the end of it all, you want to be able to do something that is sustainable. I usually say, do it something that will keep you to generations. Don't just do something that will keep you running today and then you burn out tomorrow and you can't do it for long. But that will only come from the place of you beginning to appreciate who you are, right? From the place of you beginning to appreciate what is it, sitting down with having conversations with yourself and just asking yourself, girl, today, what are we doing? Or, girl, today, what are we gonna eat? So when you're going to even make those plans for what you will eat and things like that, going back to that place of like loving myself so much that I won't allow crap in, crap out, right? Which fuel are you feeling on? It will be from that place of loving yourself so much that you're like, okay, Claire, I can have first food, but it's not going to be every single day because I love myself so much. I don't want to die at 20 just because of unhealthy habits, right? If I'm going out for work, I'll have this leisure work to know I'm not just a waste of space. No, I'm here, and God has created me and fearfully and wonderfully made, intricately complex to an extent that it took God a moment to think of creating me. So as I'm working, as I'm doing everything I'm doing, I'm not a waste of space. As I'm exercising, I'm telling myself good things about me. If you need to do affirmation, if you need to affirm yourself, there's so much that you can learn from wherever it is that you need to kind of just awaken that desire in you, awaken that self-love in you, that you get like, I will do whatever I do, whether I'm exercising, whether I'm eating, whether I'm setting up health journey, wherever that I'm doing, I will be motivated with love, loving myself. If I wake up tomorrow morning going for a run, it's from the place of Claire. We love each other. We and you are a team, right? Me and you, we are good team, because again, as I said, don't be a too harsh critic of yourself. If you missed one day, wake up tomorrow and go, right? Don't allow it because you missed one day to say, I'm staying back, I'm never gonna rise up. I mean, the Bible says clearly the righteous man falls 7 times, but he gets up 7 times. Right? Don't allow it because you missed one day to say, I'm staying back, I'm never gonna rise up. I mean, the Bible says clearly the righteous man falls 7 times, but he gets up 7 times. So don't allow it because you missed one day to say, I'm staying back, I'm never gonna rise up. 7 times and to rise again. If you haven't fallen the 7th time, you can rise up again, right? If you say to yourself, today I'm gonna just stay away from carbohydrate, if you're addicted to carbohydrate like me, and you say to yourself, Claire, we're not eating any carbohydrate, honey, I can't do without carbohydrate. But if I get to a point that I've actually eaten more than I needed, I'm not saying you excuse it. The problem comes in when we start to excuse things and they become a normal thing. Like, oh, we'll excuse not going to exercise, and then it becomes like normal thing, you don't go to exercise. Or I will excuse eating an extra cookie, and I'm not saying that. But I'm saying, like, if, for example, it gets to a point where, like, I had decided I'm not doing this, and then accidentally, I've done it, or you've decided you are on a fast, on an intermittent fasting, for example, and then temptations arise. Don't say like, oh, wretched me, or something like that. No, just remind yourself, and you're like, okay, it's a journey. If you're walking, you're driving or doing whatever, it gets to a point that sometimes you just have to take a break. And if you have to, because you love yourself, you know, okay, it's just a break, it's just a setback. It doesn't mean that I'm off the track. I'm going to walk again. I love a story of this guy that it's on one of the shows that I made on my channel, and this guy literally, he went into Olympics. He was a Tanzanian runner, and he broke his leg. He had all those, anything that you could potentially think of, but he woke up. He told himself, I'm going to arise again, and I'm going to keep going. I'm going to stand up. What the world, I've literally broken my ribs, whatever it is, I don't know. But he said, I didn't fly all those miles to come here just to give up. I will still finish the race, even if it takes me being the last person. And even after the person who was crowned the winner had left, they had gone for a long time, this guy came and arrives in the stadium. One person starts to clap, and the other one claps, and the other one claps, and before we realized, the stadium was back. If you go today, people still remember the guy, but the winner of the marathon will never be remembered because of the story of determination, right? So we will fall, we'll have opportunities where things will present themselves our way. We'll find that there are all these hurdles along the way. There'll be difficult moments. Let's face it, there'll be times where injuries will set in. If you're on an exercise journey, there'll be times where there'll be temptations. Yourself enough. You'll be like, I am enough, as Abby usually says, and I can walk through this. I will rise up again, and I will be able to go irrespective of no matter what is happening. So because of that, I still will wake up and be able to keep going, right? So I would really like to appreciate a couple of you that I've seen online. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for taking time to hang out with me. If you find this helpful, as I usually say, please do support what you're doing by clicking that like, share, or subscribe button. As I continually usually say, I continue to thank all of you who continue to support what we're doing. And that was my weekly streaming, just to remind you, do it out of love and not out of compulsion or out of unhealthy relationship with yourself. Be the biggest champion, cheerleader, encourager, motivator, whatever it is of yourself. And of course, next week I will come back again when I'll talk a little bit about something different. Until then, my prayer for you is that you will prosper and be in good health even as your souls prosper. And I pray that you know that you're loved, celebrated, and appreciated. And as I usually say, if you've never made that personal commitment and personal relationship, sometimes it starts with our relationship with your Maker, going back to Jesus and just saying, Lord Jesus, I just need you to give me the grace to be able to love myself, and to start with that, reminding yourself He has loved you, that He gave His one and only, God so loved you that He gave His one and only Son, that if you believe you will not perish. And so it begins with that relationship. If you've never made that relationship or that commitment, you can easily say a simple prayers like, I allow you to my heart to be the Lord and the Savior, and go to a church, tell somebody, and that makes a whole difference. Till next time, I pray you'll be richly blessed. I shall talk to you again soon. God bless and goodbye.